I told Coach V that, if things were going to continue to go like how they were, I didn't want to take,
This is probably the best thing you're going to see today. This was posted on the Oklahoma message board. Everyone meet on the south end of the stadium. We are going to fight this team coming out of the locker room. With all the crazy things that have been happening in college football this year, the biggest topic without a shadow of a doubt in my mind has been Alabama struggling. We knew heading into a season they were going to be a big topic because the greatest head coach of all time, Nick Saban, he has departed, and they brought in a new guy that goes by the name of Kalen DeBoer. People were going to be keeping close tabs on Alabama football because they were wanting to see if they were going to fall off or if they were going to remain at the top. If they remained at the top, it wasn't going to be a big storyline because for the most part, we've been used to that for the past 15, 16, 17 years. But however, if Alabama started losing some games, in which they have, they were going to be the biggest storyline of this season because that's what college football fans have been waiting for, the dynasty to fall off. I say all that to say this. Alabama has somewhat stolen the show this season. Yeah, there's been some other notable headlines, but come on, man, we all know this. Everybody's talking about Alabama, how they're falling off. And you want to know who's benefiting the most from Alabama's struggles? That's Oklahoma football. Because let me tell you something, if Alabama wasn't losing games, they would be the biggest storyline in college football right now and everybody be pointing and laughing at them. It's still happening, trust me, but it's not quite as much as Alabama. It's almost like they're getting overshadowed. Let me tell you something, as bad as Alabama looks, Oklahoma looks 10 times worse. And if you've watched Alabama this year, I know that's hard to believe, but I'm telling you, it's the cold hard truth. As to where it stands at this current moment in time, Oklahoma football, more importantly, the Oklahoma offense, is pathetic. They're sitting at 1-3 in the SEC, and they are extremely fortunate they're not 0-4. Shout out to Peyton Thorne, if you know, you know. They should be 0-4, but because of Peyton Thorne, they do have one win. But outside of that, it has been a crap show in the past couple of weeks. It's been miserable. It's almost unbearable to watch. And it's crazy to think 5, 6, 7 years ago, Oklahoma was widely known as one of the best offensive teams in the nation. They had a terrible defense. Well, fast forward time in 2024, they got one of the better defenses in the nation and a terrible offense. Their offense is so bad, they can quite literally win the game for the other team. That OU offense just gifts the other teams golden opportunities, and they've been doing it for the past few weeks. And it finally got to the point where yesterday, I'm sure some of you saw this, maybe some of you didn't, but Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator. If you want my 2 cents on the situation, I think that's the equivalent to throwing a water balloon in a forest fire. It's not going to do anything, and it's essentially pointless. I don't even think it's like he's the scapegoat. No. And I said this 2-3 years ago, and if you've been watching the channel, you know I've been saying this. I said it years ago. Brent Venables should be fired. And all of you last year when OU finally had a decent year was like, oh no, Matt, what about that? You still think he should be fired? And what I say? Yeah, I do. He's not the guy. Period, the end. He doesn't embody Oklahoma football. I don't think firing your offensive coordinator is going to do anything at all, and I don't care who you get, you're probably not going to improve this offense. Before we go any farther, let me show you this. This is probably the best thing you're going to see today. This was posted on the Oklahoma message board. To give you some more context, this was posted during their game versus South Carolina. Everyone meet on the south end of the stadium. We are going to fight this team coming out of the locker room. I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh. But that is one of the funniest and craziest things I've ever seen. The sad part is I don't know if that guy was trying to crack a joke. He was probably being serious, and I can't even blame the dude. Heck, I'm not even an Oklahoma fan, and I understand where he's coming from. It's not even just the offense, but it seems like that whole team, coaching staff, nobody wants to be there. Don't get me wrong, South Carolina is a very respectable opponent. They got NFL guys on that front seven, especially their edge rusher. Shout out to Dylan Stewart, one of my favorite edge rushers in the SEC. But it's not like you can't compete with those guys. South Carolina just straight up waxed you. Before we go any farther and before I forget, let me show you this. So this is what Jackson Arnold, the backup quarterback, well now, I guess, the 1A, 1B starter for the team, had to say after the game. He stated, and I quote, "I told Coach V if things were going to continue to go like they were," referring to Michael Hawkins Jr. being the starter, "I didn't want to take pointless snaps and burn a red shirt. But I also told him if you need anything to help win the game, I'll be there."
I told Coach V that, if things were going to continue to go like how they were, I didn't want to take, pointless snaps and burn a red shirt if it was there for me to keep. But I also told him that if you need me for anything to come in and win the game, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I've invested so much in the team 130, and I was going to be there for them regardless.
If you don't know exactly what he's referring to, if he would have played in another game this year, in which he did against South Carolina, he'd be burning a red shirt. So he is basically saying and telling Coach, hey, I don't want you to just throw me in there if I'm only going to play 1 to 2 snaps per game moving forward because I don't want to waste a year. And I can understand that. Unfortunately for Mr. Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins Jr., I don't think they're the problem. I think the problem starts with the offensive line. Everybody's talking about, oh, Oklahoma has 4 to 5 wide receivers injured. Screw that. What about the O-line? They don't look good at all. I don't care if you're Tom freaking Brady. I've been saying this for years. I'm going to continue to say it. If you don't have time to throw, even the best quarterbacks are going to look bad. We saw it in that 1 year at Tampa Bay. I believe it was his last year. That O-line wasn't as good as they were when they won the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady, he kind of looked sort of washed up. Was he washed up? Not really. I mean, he's the GOAT. He could go out there today and win some NFL games. But you get what I'm saying. He didn't have time to throw, so it made him look worse than what he was. With that being said, I will say this. I don't think Jackson Arnold is that good of a quarterback, and I don't think Mike Hawkins Jr. is that good of a quarterback. So when you combine that with terrible O-line play, boom, recipe for disaster. And that is what has happened for this Oklahoma offense. Shout out to their defense. They're trying their best, but when you can't score, you can't win. And it's not going to get too much better for Oklahoma because guess who they play this weekend? Ole Miss. You're definitely going to have to score points if you want to beat them. They got a cupcake against Maine, and then you got a pretty tough 3-game stretch. You got Missouri, although they're not looking good. They look better than Oklahoma. Then you got Alabama. Same thing there. They're not looking good, but they look better in Oklahoma. And then you got LSU. As where it stands right now, Oklahoma, oh my goodness, they're 21-point underdogs against Ole Miss. Holy crap. That is insane. Yeah, that's, oh my God. I just can't even fathom that. I thought it was going to be like a 7 or 8 point spread. But anyways, you're probably going to win the main one. That'd be your 5th win. But after the main game, you're not going to be favored against Mizzou, Bama, or LSU. What am I trying to say? Well, it's as simple as this. If you want to get to a bowl game, you're going to have to pull off a quote-unquote upset. And here's the bad thing if you're an OU fan. There's no signs of this team improving next year. Here's the last thing I'm going to show you before we end out this video, and I saved the best for last. You got to take a look at this. Here's what your head coach, BV, aka Brent Venables, had to say about letting go of the offensive coordinator. Seth is an all-time great Sooner. He has a deep love for this university and football program and has poured his heart and soul into both. Despite that, our performance as an offense this season has not at all lived up to the OU standard, and I felt a change was necessary now. Oh, yes. You know what change I think is necessary? For you to be fired, coach. That's what I think. But I digress, and continuing along here, if you are curious, the tight ends coach, Joe John Finley, will be the new OC, or new play caller. And here's what Venables had to say about that. The leadership role Joe John plays on our team is critical. He has the confidence of our locker room and coaching staff, and I'm thankful to him for taking on this expanded role in the middle of the season. Kevin joined our staff last spring as an offense analyst after serving as an offensive coordinator for over a decade. He has a wealth of experience coordinating offenses and coaching quarterbacks, and I'm looking forward to the fresh approach he'll bring and the bigger role he'll play in the offensive game planning. I'm confident Joe John, Kevin, and the rest of the offensive staff will work tirelessly to put our players in positions to succeed and make us more effective on that side of the ball. Interesting. Now let me ask my OU fans. I'm really curious. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think about all this. Do you think the offense is going to get better? Yes or no? If you got to ask me, I think y'all know where I'm going with this. No. Not really. I'll explain why. Nick Saban said this years ago, and it changed my whole perspective and outlook on defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators. At the very end of the day, it doesn't matter what play call the offensive coordinator schemes up, draws up, however you want to word it. The players still got to execute it. Offensive coordinator can drop the best play in the world, but if the offensive line doesn't block, quarterback doesn't make the right read, wide receiver runs the wrong route, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Same thing here. Against South Carolina, was it the offensive coordinator's fault that Michael Hawkins fumbled the ball for a scoop and score, threw a pick six and another interception? No. But guess who's going to get blamed for it? The offensive coordinator, and that's the sad part about the business. I'm not saying the offensive coordinator was doing a great job, but it wasn't helping him considering the offensive line's been terrible this year. Doesn't have his typical wide receivers out there, and the quarterback play's been awful. I think anybody calling plays, and you're going to see that with this new play caller, offensive coordinator, whatever you want to call him, they're going to struggle with this Oklahoma football team. But hey, that's just me. If they go out here against Ole Miss and drop a 40 burger, I'll eat my words. But I'd be shocked if they score more than 20. This entire OU offense has a lot, and I mean a lot of problems. Many more things I could say. I think we all get the point. Oklahoma, it's a crap show, to say the least. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.